333 Vader wants to know, how do you guys always keep positive, especially when any hate is thrown your way?
because at the end,
like some of the people that edit these videos of these reaction videos, or the downfall of Shane Gillis or Andrew Schultz or Brendan Schaub, it's like, buddy, clearly you have editing skills. If you just focus on it, you'd have a career, dude. Like if you did something creative where you weren't, just giving an opinion on somebody else's talent, like, dude, you could fucking do this, man.
I'd like them to work.
They have more skill than I do.
I'll hire you. Yeah. I think part of it is also, I just was thinking about this the other day.
It's D-Day for our boy Brendan Schaub because his buddy Bryan Callen has officially left the building and headed for greener pastures in Austin, Texas, leaving Bupper behind to figure some things out.
What's up, guys? As you might know, we are in the process of moving this entire operation of the Fire and the Kid to Austin, Texas. Now, with that, Bryan decided to move way too early. I get out there. I'm right behind him, but Bryan just moved way too early. So our schedules are a little here and there. And if we can't make it in the studio both at the same time, we got to bank some episodes, or we got to give you a best of, like this is what we're doing now. So we appreciate you guys. We're going to do our best to give you real episodes. We're going to get it done for the most part, but every now and then we got to give you the best of. So enjoy the best of Fire and the Kid. Thank you for understanding.
And so in the spirit of banking episodes, The Fighter and the Kid released a question and answer podcast earlier in the week, while Brendan runs around getting his house ready for yet another open house this weekend. But the irony of doing a Q&A session reflecting on their careers and still not realizing that it's Brendan's own attitude and actions that led to their downfall and not the external factors that he's still continuing to blame is actually crazy. This whole episode was filled with the most dogshit excuses, including I got given the wrong information, I trusted the wrong people, I was going through a rough patch, and at one point he even justified his actions with the classic line, "Who cares?" Mind you, this was all in relation to when Brendan and Bryan falsely confused Bobby Lee of trying to sabotage Brendan's life in retaliation for Brendan trying to smash Bobby's girlfriend at the time, Kalila Kuhn, and warg one of her friends back to his truck after bombing on stage. And so I've dissected and decoded this train wreck of an episode using my advanced editing skills in the hope of gaining employment at Thick Boy Studios as an unpaid intern. So if you've been following their move to Texas on this channel, you may recall my theory that Bryan Callen will be the net beneficiary of the move because it will bring him closer to Rogan and he won't have to hit the road doing comedy now that he'll be able to join the top 250 assassins in the mothership green room. I also floated the idea that Brendan will attempt to resurrect his comedy career in Texas as well. However, according to the man himself, he's put the mic down for good. I'm not going to lie, when I heard his justification for not making a comeback, I literally could not believe my ears.
Colin Sr. wants to know, Brendan, do you ever think you'll go back to comedy?
I get this all the time. I can't picture a world where I would have time to do it. There's a few factors that go into it. A, like in order to get good at stand-up, the amount of time that you have to spend doing it, like Monday through Sunday. Like you got to realize, like when you guys saw me do comedy, Bryan's been doing it for 30 years. Rogan's been doing it for 30. Anyway, Theo's been doing it for 25. Shane Gill's been doing it for 20. Schultz 20. Santino 20. So I'm behind the eight ball. So not only just to even touch the tip of the iceberg, I have to do so much work just to get even at any level, and I just don't have the time.
You also don't miss it.
I miss the hang. Sometimes I'll miss certain things about it, but overall I don't miss it.
Yeah.
And then I would miss my kids' sports. It's just not worth it.
Okay.
And I don't miss the travel. That was the worst part of stand-up. And the late nights. I came in bed by 8:30. I've never been healthier, never been happier. It just doesn't make sense for me. I'll do live Fire and the Kids every now and then, but not if you made me commit to it like once a week. I would hate that.
Fuck me dead. Alright, first things first. The Shane Gillis cope from all these guys is funny as hell. If he started comedy 20 years ago, that would mean he just turned 16 years old when he started. Brendan started doing comedy shortly after he retired from MMA, which was only a couple of years after Shane started. So technically, if Schaub had stuck with it, he'd basically be a 10-year guy by now. Instead, he dropped his first comedy special through Showtime barely a few years into his so-called comedy career, which was one of the first steps in making everyone hate him. I'll come back to this a little bit later on in the video when Brendan explains the two things he thinks ruined the Fighter and the Kid podcast. But to hear him finally realize what literally everyone has been saying for the last 10 years about how he sucks at comedy and needed to take a step back and actually put in the time and effort required to actually become half decent is one of the most Brendan Schaub things ever. Talk about being late to the party. Fuck my life, what a redact. But like you saw in the intro, our boy Bupper isn't such a big fan of channels like this one. Not because we document his lies and stupidity, but because we're wasted talent.
333 Vader wants to know, how do you guys always keep positive, especially when any hate is thrown your way?
because at the end of the day, when hate's thrown our way, I always laugh at this. I'm like, you know what I do all day? And this is all I've ever done. I spend all day trying to figure out ways to make people laugh. And then I do a podcast. I don't know what I'm doing that's causing, like, if you hate me, I don't know what to tell you.
But you know, what are we supposed to, like, what are we supposed to do?
You hate us?
Also, name somebody that's not, like, anybody that, and we're not celebrities, but, like, anyone doing anything of note, like, hate's just what you sign up for. I don't know too many people that, like, just focus on that. If all we did is focus on that, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I don't read comments, good or bad. That's the thing. I never, good comments, bad comments, I don't read because they give you the same power. If you put weight in that, you can't win with the internet.
I just come to the territory.
And sometimes people are just fucking with you anyway. Sometimes it's fun to hate on somebody. Sometimes it's fun to kick somebody around.
It's such a waste of time, though. Yeah. It's just such a waste. Like some of the people that edit these videos of, these reaction videos, or, the downfall of Shane Gillis or Andrew Schultz or Brendan Schaub. It's like, buddy, clearly you have editing skills. If you just focus on it, you'd have a career, dude. Like, if you did something creative where you weren't, just giving an opinion on somebody else's talent, like, dude, you could fucking do this, man.
I'd like them to work.
They have more skill than I do.
I'll hire you.
So you just come to the territory. It's just the culture we live in, It's the culture we live in.
I think part of also when you get older, too, is you look back and, man, you get it wrong a lot more than you get it right. You fail a lot more than you succeed.
But one of the reasons, like, we start a podcast, like, both of us have a lot of opinions.
Brendan shitting on reaction channels for making a career out of commenting on someone else's talent when he literally has a whole podcast dedicated to giving dogshit takes on the MMA world is peak irony even for your boy. But the best part for me is how Brendan tries to normalize the hate that he gets as simply, it comes with the territory. Bro has a subreddit dedicated to exposing his every move with almost 170,000 homeless cats. It's literally in the top 1% of subreddits. No one else is dealing with that shit but him. And this is the trend with this guy. He complains about people creating false narratives about his life, when the reality is he sits there every day running his mush mouth, spouting the most bullshit takes about everything and anything, constantly lying through his teeth about things that are easily verifiable, and then blames everyone around him when he gets called out for it. And credit to Bryan Callen for leaning into a lot of the hate that they get and acknowledging that some of it's actually funny, instead of just denying and deflecting like Brendan does. But when it comes to hypocrisy, Bryan and Brendan are just as bad as each other.
Some hate is good to listen to because it can actually listen to it. It's a good criticism. I've had people criticize me where I was like, ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give people like, Schaub, this is the way I do it. They're like, Schaub, love ya. Quit interrupting Bryan. I'm like, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, some guy said to me, he goes, I was on Rogan a long time ago. He goes, hey, dude, you get on there and all you do is try to show us how smart you are and how many books you've read. I was like, you know what? You might be 100% right on
hey,
that. Hey,
Bryan, that was me.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah.
You trolled me, motherfucker. So there's a lot of that, too. It's like, are you getting on there to promote something, or you get on there to show off?
No, it's just a hang. Like I like, even when you got to promote a special, Bubba, if you're just yourself, which everyone loves, you don't have to promote anything.
Yeah.
People go, and then at the end you have a special, like, God, Bryan was great on there. I'll check out a special.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Yeah. When I can't stand when people come on this show Rogan, who have Schultz, Theo, and have an agenda, we can smell it a mile away.
I told you this. Whenever I have to go on, and people are like, you got to promote your stuff on Rogan.
I hate when you do that.
I had this. I hate it so much. I hate promoting. And we had an evacuation order. I looked at her and I go, I got to go do Joe's podcast and then shoot my special at the mothership. But I feel guilty about leaving you here. And she goes, what are you gonna do? You can't change a tire. I got this. I was like, all right, see you later. Raise my kids, save them. Tell my story. I'll be in Austin. Sorry about the fires.
Tell them to watch your special. Tell all the kids at school to watch Daddy's special.
They watch Daddy's special. It's going to be good. False gods. I'm excited,
Are you
man.
going to put it on YouTube?
Yeah. I'm
That's
shooting
the
that.
move.
Yeah, I think so, right?
YouTube's the move because you get the most views for sure.
It's not me.
But
so
when you
then
do
I do
it,
then I
bro,
go, and
it-
here's the thing about
so
toe holder.
cringy.
Here's the thing about my dates. And
It's
like,
the worst.
fuck.
It's the worst thing you do.
I know.
I hate when you do
That's
that.
why I don't do it anymore.
I told you I'm at B.
It was such a relief when you said that.
I go, B,
fuck.
all you got to be is yourself. We all love you.
Yeah.
And then people will, you don't have to tell me
Because I'm
anything.
thinking about when to put in this promotion. 'cause
Instead
I'm
of being yourself.
I'm being told
Yeah.
I'm bad at it. So I'm
Yeah.
like, now I got to get good at it. And then when you said that, I go, I don't want to be on Rogan promoting anything. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to hang. So I'm going to shoot the special and I'm going to throw it away and I got to start again.
Yeah.
And just because I've done 5 specials doesn't mean it's going to be easier.
9-second quarter mile right
Holy
from the factory, motherfucker.
A 9
That's what you need.
fucking-
That's what you need, Callen.
You do. It's very
when your
important.
special kicks it and you start selling out
So-
giant theaters.
Dude, let's go, baby.
Let's get a little in your life.
That's
You're
what I'll buy
running away
myself.
from looters.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I just don't.
That's
It
when you're
always
at your
feels
best.
so unnatural.
Yeah, that's when you're at
and
your best.
another thing about me, off. I don't want to go see me when I do that.
It's just not you. So when you do it, it's over.
Yeah, I'm just not going to do it.
You don't do it anymore.
No, I can't. It's such a relief. Okay. I'd rather be poor.
Again, our boy Bupper with the truckloads of copium when it comes to comedy special talk. If he has something to promote, which he doesn't, he'd be the first one to blurt it out on JRE for the world to hear. But when it comes to his buddy Brian, it's just fucking cringe. And it honestly drives me nuts that Brian has to self-publish his comedy special on YouTube because no streamers will touch him after the allegations. Not even our boy Rogan could broker a deal with Netflix for him. That's how fucking toxic he is. On a quick side note, there's nothing more American than Joe Rogan propped up on his booster seat in his Corvette, hitting 9-second quarter miles under the Texan sun. How does he reach the pedals though? Anyway, the Bobby Lee situation came up yet again, and if you ask me now what Brendan's biggest talent is, I'd definitely say his ability to butcher a narrative into the ground so badly that it's barely recognizable. I honestly have no idea what he's trying to say here, and after all that's been said and done about this, Bupper really needs to take the cue from Brian and go with his narrative instead.
Here's another question from the same person. Do you guys think you'll ever fix the relationship with Bobby Lee, and who gave you the info about Tiger Belly that caused all the mess?
Look, Bobby Lee and I on text have fixed that relationship. We will, I think you'll see us together in something, in the future. And I've apologized and taken full accountability. I love him. He's a great guy. I won't go into the Tiger Belly stuff, but it's over. It's over. It's done. It was a huge mistake, and he's our boy. I love the guy. I think he's really funny. I don't make any excuses. I never have. I apologize right away several times, and I throw myself on the mercy of the court.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where I would see Bobby. I'd be cool. I have no animosity towards him. I don't care. I think he's hilarious. He's so talented, but I'm sure he feels the same way. It's like my life doesn't get better if me and him are friends. Neither does his. So all good. All good.
Well,
I think he's a great guy.
yeah,
But
I've always.
we
I've
were never
always
that
had
close
something.
here. You came up with him at the comedy store.
Yeah.
I was never that close with him. I've always appreciated him. He's such a talent. He does great podcasting and stand up.
Look, man,
but it's not like I
was
missed
wrong.
a.
I think that putting him in the mix in that mix was wrong, 100% wrong, and I was working on bad information, and I take full responsibility. I don't even blame the information I got. I take full responsibility for that.
I blame.
I was
I blame the
100%
information we got.
Doesn't
That's
matter. For me,
for a different
I always
discussion.
Say, I always say it was what the way I spoke to him. He was always my friend, always somebody I cared about. didn't deserve any of that at all, not even a little bit. And I've not made a lot of mistakes in my life, but when I make mistakes, I've always accounted for them. And I believe a man should say, I was wrong, I f***ed up, huge learning experience, no excuses. And I had a bad moment, and I was in a bad way. I was personally and emotionally in a bad way, man. I was in a dark place.
Yeah, it was bad timing. Then also, I should have had in hindsight been like, what are we doing? No, we shouldn't do this. Like, we just weren't thinking. I had a million things going on. Like,
it was so dumb.
Whether he was or wasn't behind it, which we don't think he was.
Somebody that we cared about, who was a good person, who had nothing to do with it in the middle of it, was outrageous. And that's my mea culpa.
But like, if it happened now, like we're in such a better spot. If someone would have came to us with that same information, I'm like, get the out of here.
Yeah.
It was a weird time. It was so stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so stupid.
But I think you'll see.
Who cares?
I think you'll
So
see
stupid.
us, certainly me and Bobby, in the future. And I love him.
I don't know what me and Bobby would do. It's not like.
Do
Donnie?
jiu-jitsu, you
No.
guys can roll, whatever.
No.
All right.
So when Bryan says, who cares, I think he means that's how he should have approached the whole situation way back when it happened. As in, when he was presented with the fake 300 pages of evidence that Bobby Lee was behind the Fighter and the Kid subreddit, he should have just said, who cares, instead of threatening violence against Bobby Lee over phone and text. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? The whole point is that you didn't say who cares, and you effectively intimidated and threatened a little Asian boy for absolutely no reason. And then he'll completely contradict himself in the same breath by saying, I still blame the information, not the way I reacted. So which one is it? Do you regret your behavior at the time, or do you regret being so naive as to be duped by fake evidence? Fuck me dead, now I'm falsely confused. But the icing on the cake is Brendan's answer to this next question. This perfectly encapsulates why Brendan is where he is today, and why he'll never claw his way back into being the famous comedy podcaster that he always wanted to be. The delusion is strong in this one.
Martino77 wants to know, what's one thing you would both do differently if you had to start this podcast over again?
Not the Bobby Lee stuff and listen to people. But as far as do things different, I think when Bryan was going off through his shit, him taking a leave of absence was a bad idea. And me just doing the show with random people, I think that was a bad idea. I think we should have, granted we need the money at the time, I think we should have put our foot down. Now, in 2025, you can do that. Everyone's like champion you, right? Like, you'll see guys that get accused of bullshit and everyone's like, we don't believe it. But back in 2019, when we were going through it, and I was like, B, what do you want to do? And the only way we could get money was for Bryan to take a leave of absence. I think it ruined the show. Yeah. I think that, along with the Bobby Lee stuff, ruined the show. Now, I do think there's a place for us to come back, whatever that means, but I would do this show for free. I love seeing Bryan. I love you guys. I would do it for free.
Yeah.
Brian?
Same thing.
Love that.
I think you said it well.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, when the allegations against Bryan Callen from 4 different women came out in 2020 in that LA Times article, Brendan was supposedly forced to take Bryan off air because otherwise advertisers weren't going to do business with him. It was a classic Me Too cancellation. And here we have Mr. Anti-Woke, Anti-Cancellation openly admitting that he cancelled his own best friend for money because apparently he needed it at the time. Mind you, this was back when Brendan had one of the most successful podcasts in the world with Theo Von, getting millions of views an episode. The fake virtue signaling to his audience that he always sticks by his buddies and never gives in to cancellation is so fucking hypocritical. But the elephant in the room is that Brendan doesn't realize the real reason why the Fighter and the Kid fell off is because of him. Remember earlier on how he gave us those words of wisdom about how a return to comedy would be too late? It requires too much hard work and he's too fucking lazy to make a comeback at this point. The part he left out was that not only did he do everything too quickly and rely on his MMA fame and friendship with Joe Rogan to get his Showtime deal, but he was extremely fucking arrogant the whole time. That's what he still refuses to admit to this day. His whole attitude back then was so toxic that you can see it just by looking at photos. And it wasn't just his attitude. He actually hit back at his critics at the time, pointing out that he's rich, successful, and good looking, and they're not. Imagine trying to become a comedian and going full Karen on your audience, and then 15 years later admitting that you needed to put in the hard work to make it in comedy, and you're just not prepared to do that. And that's not the only reason. His podcasts are so lazy and boring now that he just got left behind. Thanks to Papa Rogan, Brendan was an early adopter of the podcasting format and got in while it was growing exponentially. There wasn't anywhere near the amount of competition there is nowadays back then when he was getting the big view counts, but he didn't do anything with it. When Theo Von left to do his own things and figure some things out, Brendan used to make fun of him. Instead, he chose to hang out with sex pests and go down with the podcast. So his whole narrative of blaming everyone around him for feeding him false information and Bryan leaving the podcast for a period of time in 2020 as the only two reasons why the podcast is ruined simply isn't the full picture. The real reason is him. And so now that Bryan's officially gone to Texas, things are about to get really interesting. I stand by my prediction that once Bryan gets settled at the mothership and builds a following down there, he'll start bringing home the cash, etc., etc. He will then leave The Fighter and the Kid. Brendan's already announced he's leaving Golden Hour. They're staying behind in LA, so once Bryan's gone, he'll have 2 Schaub shows that nobody watches and no comedy career because it's too hard. All that will be left is Bupper, the truck guy. What a fucking dumbass. Anyway, remember to check out the link in the description to my Patreon if you want to see my full review of Bert and Schultz's comedy specials. There's a bunch of other exclusive content on there as well, so check that out if you're interested. Otherwise, make sure you subscribe to my channel right here on YouTube and hit the like button while you're here. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.
When or if will we ever see Theo back on the pod? What is your current relationship with him now?
I talked to Theo yesterday. He posted happy birthday. Theo's doing his thing, man.
Busy.
He's swamped. Yeah.
Busy.